Okay, I want to pose.
Thank you.
Reporting live.
Everyone here is feeling so happy now, right? So this is Jason and Danica Russell, and we were just backstage talking about how we got to know each other, and we haven't fully figured it out. But
Yeah.
Jason and Danica, for years, they were the creators behind a great movement called Invisible Children. Have any of you guys ever heard of Invisible Children? Yes. And Jason was oftentimes the face of Invisible Children, but behind the scenes, Danica really created all the creative behind it.
She's the genius.
I did everything.
Yeah.
And so tell us kind of the journey of how that all came to be, some things that you learned in the midst of launching this movement.
Yeah, there's a lot. We were like building a space shuttle to Mars, in the sense that we didn't know what we were doing, but we wanted to end Africa's longest running war because we made friends with these kids who were being systematically kidnapped and brainwashed, and we felt like we made the movie, and that's all we thought we were supposed to do. Like, we're just going to make a documentary and then go about our lives, and everyone we showed it to said, so what's the plan? And we were like, we don't know. We're just like 19, 21, and 23. We don't know. And the journey was just like believing that there was some person behind the magic Oz curtain that would have the answer on how to end Africa's longest running war and stop the crimes of Joseph Kony and the LRA. And so every season, every year was just an experiment. Like, what if we tried to pass a bill through Congress? Or what if we tried to raise $2 million and rebuild the schools that have been affected?
We really, in the beginning, tried to partner with more established organizations because, they made the film and people kept saying, what can we do? How can we get involved? And so many organizations were like, no, your movie is too
out there, right? Too
wild,
yeah.
and you're blowing up termite hills, and you're all of these things. So it was, like he said, building the plane in the air, really. And
but it was an adventure, I think that was what's a part of it is I meet with a lot of people and they're like, we want a movement, and I see movements as radical, time-sensitive, sacrificial, and dangerous. When you really look at movements throughout history, including the Ice Bucket Challenge, they're time-sensitive. That's never going to happen again, guys. It already... So
Can you say that one more time? Radical?
Yeah, so it's radical, it's dangerous, it's time-sensitive, and it's sacrificial. Wow. You got to get into the streets. Selling T-shirts online, that's not a movement. That's selling T-shirts online. It's a great thing. You can sell T-shirts, but it's been kind of almost bankrupt, that idea, and it's almost taken away from the true movements in the past that really have a lot of sweat and blood and sacrifice.
Since leaving Invisible Children too, we've been doing a lot of consultant work, and so many people want a movement, and Jason's always like, where are we moving to?
Yeah.
People think they want a movement, but if there's no point, if the point is just to have an online presence, then make a fun film like Happy and just have it be a culture builder, you know, but a movement really points to something. And I think Invisible Children's was time sensitive. It was very we have to do this, and we've been told for so long we can we really? Mm-hmm. So we honestly at one point made a list, what are all the things we've been told we can do? Can we do them?
Yeah.
Well, the flip side of that is not just the Kony topic or just the Uganda issue. I think in the midst of it, being someone that was a fan of you guys, honestly, and a supporter and all that kind of stuff,
yeah.
was that you created a documentary, and then all of a sudden, you inspired a generation. There was people that thought, wow, I have this purpose that I can go do something, right? And a lot of those people are in this room. I bet there's people here tonight that because of watching what you guys created, they're doing and believed they could do what they're doing now. Now, in the midst of that, you did it for how many years?
12.
12 years. Had incredible viewing, had incredible awareness, how do you define success in the midst of that? And how can you encourage the people that are trying to address social problems here to kind of frame their thinking around success?
So for us, it really was about the impact. For us, it was about the results. We really monitored like every screening, how many people are signing up, how many signatures to the bill, how much money are we being raised. It was all about the impact, you know. And I think that's what hurt so bad during Coney 2012 when we were labeled like clicktivism and slacktivism. If you actually Google that, we're the only example on Wikipedia, which like we were like, no, we're not clicktivists or slacktivists. Like just because we had the most viral video doesn't mean we are not doing things that are real and impacting lives. So it was really about how are these children, how many are coming back out of the LRA, how many are defecting, how many are getting back in school, how many scholarships are being put into the war-affected region. And, you know, we learned, we were such a weird nonprofit because we were literally sustained by $20 donations of college and high school students. So 90% of our budget was based off of whether individuals would support us and fundraise or buy a t-shirt or buy a bracelet. And so usually in most nonprofits it's reversed. 90% comes from grants or major donors. And so really, when you think of a spaceship and you're putting, you know, all the fuel that has to get to the moon, or wherever you're going, once Coney 2012 hit, you know, and it was like this global phenomenon, then because of the news cycle and the controversy, it just stopped. Everything kind of was a gridlock. And the idea of sustainability, it's a word that's thrown around so much, but like, I'm not jaded, I just don't think anything's really sustainable. Like everything is actually reliant on
the next thing getting
the next
better.
thing. Yeah, like Blockbuster Video was sustainable.
We like to
and then it
was
wasn't.
not. Yeah.
You know? And so it's I think it's appropriate and great to go after sustainability, but I'm excited about the future because I think that the nonprofit and the for-profit are merging in a way that I think in the next 10 years we will see the way things have been in the nonprofit world is really antiquated.
Because, well, there's something we were talking about before, how a lot of people start nonprofits and there's like a clog in the drain where there's so many. Now I feel like a lot of people are figuring it out to work together. I mean, we just did some consulting with water and they're all working together. Let's get clean water to the world, duh. That's such an easy, no one's against that. Right? So instead of starting 10 different versions of it, yes, we'll all have our own opinion, but let's work together. So,
yeah, and the idea of working yourself out of the job. So for all of us at Invisible Children, we didn't want to work there. We wanted to accomplish the mission and then get another job somewhere else. And so I think that's like, just work at a nonprofit so that you can fire yourself. Like that, because it would be so much more exciting because so much of the focus is like, how do we get the resources? How do we get the resources instead of like gearing towards the actual targeted goal?
Well, I'm sure in the midst of, you know, Invisible Children kind of coming to your end and your season in it, I'm sure you processed a ton of stuff, right?
Invisible Children is still going. The programs are still going.
Still going. Yeah.
But
your interaction with it, right?
Yeah.
And you probably still have some involvement in it. But you've transitioned to something new.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So when we transitioned out of Invisible Children at the end of 2014, you know, I ask everyone from the barista at Starbucks to the TSA line to like a new friend I meet at a party, what's the dream for your life? Like, what's the dream? And I didn't realize that no one had asked me that. And one of my friends, one of the editors said, what's the dream now? Like, you can do anything you want. And I really thought about it, and I said, well, I want my children to know that they are the change makers. They're the future. They can make this world into whatever they want it to be, you know? And we always joked about writing a children's book about the ABCs of activism because it didn't exist yet. And I think any creative project is going about the world and being like, I wish that this existed. And it doesn't, so I'm going to make it.
Yeah, when the power went out in Africa or whatever, we'd be sitting there, Okay, A is for, I mean, they were, H was for hairy armpits at one point. I mean, it's gotten more higher concept. But yeah, I think we've had the benefit of getting to work with so many cool organizations and having these amazing conversations with our kids, because we have to explain to them, like, what do you tell your teacher, your parents do, or just because first person they get to be at the rally or see the film we've made, and we kind of have to unpack it. And so they have this really cool understanding and like big picture idea, and we were like, gosh, we want to have that conversation. We want parents to have that conversation with their kids earlier. And even just thinking bigger and like getting kids to look up from their own lives or apply the high concept to their world, you know?
And also when you think about the word activism to just like most people, it's very extreme or divisive or like loud. And so we wanted to deconstruct that and say like, no, it can be fun and exciting and empowering and good. And we're going to start by telling the children that you can make the world better.
Is good.
Yeah, letter by letter. So here we go. And we called the book A Little Radical. We kickstarted it 2 years ago and we finished it this spring. And so we sold out. We ordered more copies, and as of today, we sold all our stuff. We're getting down to 4 suitcases.
Like, not the books, your stuff.
Oh, sorry, all our belongings.
Belongings. We just did this weekend, so I'm still a little
traumatized.
Like, where's my shoes?
Moving is really hard, but it's especially hard when you get rid of everything you've ever owned. But we wanted to do it. We talked about it for 2 years, and this weekend we will be moving out of our rental and living in an Airbnb for a few months, and then in January take off for a trip around the nation and around the world.
So what we're trying to do is partner each letter of our book with different organizations in the world and take our kids there not as like more as students, also all of us going to see who is putting their money where their mouth is. What does it look like to do a modern day boycott? What does it look like? Like, how can we do this at home? And how can we tell our kids about this? And who's actually doing it? So that's what we're going to do, because we keep saying we work so hard to get our kids in this bubble, like the best schools and the best, are they doing all the lessons? And now I'm like, we gotta burst the bubble. I mean, I want to break their hearts a little bit so they can come back and just anything that comes is better than you could expect.
So you sold all your stuff.
Yeah.
And then you came here.
Yeah,
literally. Sold, came here, like this weekend they had the largest sale possible, right?
Yeah.
And then in a few months, 4 or 5 months, you and your 2 kids are going on this adventure.
Yep.
How many places, how long, and are you documenting this? Like, how are we going to see this? Can my kids watch it?
Yeah, that's our hope. So we're going to go from January through August is our plan right now.
2018.
One of the things with Invisible Children, a lot of times people were like, why international? Why not domestic? Like, we have problems right here. And we agree.
Which is true,
we agree. So we're doing a slightly local, not local, but national tour, and then we'll go international. We have a couple places already locked in, but we're going to publish all of that soon.
We have about like half of the causes connected to one of the letters, but if there's anyone out here that knows ones that we could partner with.
Yeah, let's talk.
We want to cover like homelessness, incarceration, like these major issues, the immigrant issue, and like really find a way to communicate that to younger kids so that as they grow up, it's really their world. We're just kind of helping, shape it.
So through the eyes of, how old are your kids?
10 and 8.
10 and 8. Through their eyes, you're going to be documenting this, right? And through you as a family.
Right. So we'll do like video blogs. We're going to do a podcast. And then, of course, like the social media aspect to it as well.
So like 1 year from now, as you said, through August, if it was August next year, what do you hope? What would you hope to be telling us? Like, what would you hope that your kids experienced? I don't know what the hope is in the midst of this.
My hope is just that there would be thousands of more people doing more, in their family, in their neighborhood. I think that the hardest part is knowing where to start. It's like people do want to do something. They want to do something good. We've seen that over a decade. They're just like, tell me what to do. Like, tell me where to start. And so when you come to our site, we want people to be able to click on an issue that's either in their neighborhood or 6,000 miles away and be able to have an impact at some level, because nothing really feels better or like cures depression than like helping someone else, And I've felt that. Like, I went through a pretty gnarly public naked meltdown. I lost my brain and my clothes, and it caught the cover of TMZ, and it took a long time because I'm a 3 on the Enneagram, so I'm like achiever, and my biggest fear is failing. And so after I got out of, this major 6-month mental health process, I came back, but I still had the achiever because I had invisible children to go back to. But once that ended, it was like, oh my gosh, we failed. Like, I failed the company, invisible children failed, we didn't accomplish the mission. But it was through the process of meeting other people who had been through the dark night of the soul that my soul started healing. That's when I felt like, oh, only broken people can help other broken people heal again. Wow. And so I look back, I wouldn't trade anything for the journey. It was horrible, but yet, man, I can talk to you. If you've lost your mind, like, I'm right here, still working through it.
I always thought I was the crazy one. That's the beauty. I'm glad it's not my naked butt. It's a little bigger.
So the theme this week, or the next 2 days, is future work. And I know from the message you've always had with Invisible Children into now, you believe deeply in the next generation.
Yeah.
So how does that fuel this project? Like, what do you see as in the near future that is coming?
Well,
mine are
it requires a little crazy.
Yeah.
That's phase 1. Phase 2 is there is nothing you have to do. We're all inventing the rules. Like, there's no rules for what your marriage has to look like. You don't have to buy a house and live in it in the suburbs. You can reinvent it all the time. And the same thing goes for the world, I think, is like, someone told you can't do that, play with it. Like, test your toe over there and see if you can. And my kids' teachers probably don't love that I'm teaching them that. But just see if they care, if they really care. And see, what we can do to change it. Because it's been incredible to witness firsthand. Like you said in your opener, like, the amount of people whose jobs change or whatever
they quit their jobs.
And that's my favorite thing about Invisible Children after the impact we've seen from the kids who are coming home. But when people come up and say, hey, I worked in a cubicle and then I decided to become a teacher because of Invisible Children because I want to be near life and pour into the next generation, that's like, wow, how cool. And so the same thing for us, for families to not be afraid to think out. So many of our friends are always like, activism's your thing. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think it's everybody's thing. So to me, I'm like, there has to be somewhere between throwing money at it and moving to India. And I want everyone to feel like there's a space for them there. And that is everyone's job to find it. So that's what we're trying to create, I think.
I love it.
So.
All right, now, can you talk about middle names for a quick second?
Sure.
This is like a random little thing that I know about you guys. Talk about middle names.
I didn't have a middle name. None of my siblings did. So at 8 years old, because of the BMX movie Rad, I chose Radical. So I chose Jason Radical Russell at 8, and it just stuck. And so when Gavin was born...
It's also funny because he's such a radical. Right. So even when we came up with the book title, I'm like, how can we not use it?
Yeah, and so our oldest, Gavin, we chose the middle name Danger based off of Mike Yaconelli's book, Dangerous Wonder, that the world is dangerous, but do not fear, go out and bring hope and healing. and then Darling,
Gavin,
Danger, Russell,
And then Everly Darling is kind of a nod to Peter Pan. It's like
Wendy
the Darling family. But also, I think there's something to being kind and beloved and to being a darling to people who just... Sorry, it's making me emotional. Don't ask me about my children. And then my middle name is Michelle, okay? It's so boring. So if anyone wants to suggest anything more exciting, I mean, I like to write, and I'm still trying to find the word.
I love it. Okay, last question. Like, I think what you're doing is remarkable. You guys are courageous people. You're courageous parents to do this with your kids. And one thing I love about it is that many of us that have transitioned in our 20s from being people that wanted to do something significant with our life are now in our 30s. We have fallen in love. We're building a family, and we're trying to teach our kids what was the framework of how we're living. That's what you guys are doing. I think it's incredible. I know that there's people here that are like, man, how do I get involved in this? How can I help in this journey? How would you answer that question?
Oh, my.
We're building it right now. It's still like coming together. So follow on our journey.
Yeah.
We're also still trying to like seal the locations on the trip and the partnerships. I mean, Invisible Children was so incredible because it belonged to so many people. I mean, one time we met a guy at the grocery store. Do you remember? He had like an Invisible Children t-shirt on, and he goes, I started this organization. And we're like, did you? Please tell us everything. So I love that. And I feel like...
Like it's his. He's like,
please tell us.
Yeah.
That must have been so hard. No. But I love it because he did. He did.
Yeah.
So that's where we are again, and we're like hoping that people will be attracted to what we're doing and join us, meet us there.
Yeah, we have big dreams. I mean, we want to create like curriculum, put this in schools, have it be, historic, but also future thinking. We want a soundtrack with 26 songs for the 26 letters.
Remember, free to be meet
if
you
you want to meet up with
anyone?
us, we're going to Iraq, we're going to India, we're going to Africa, we're going to Thailand. So email us and come meet us and join us on our trip for 10 days or a month.
You can always donate. That would be great. Our couch didn't sell for that much. So
I love it. Well, I'm thankful you guys are here. I'm thankful you shared your story.
Thank you.
I think the year ahead is going to be amazing. The stories that you can't even predict right now are going to be endless. So join
if
me.
for inviting
else,
us.
we get to live the adventure, right?
Yeah,
Everybody
totally
is. So
Thank you for doing it. Join me in thanking Jason and Danica for being here. Love it. Awesome.